Good morning, my name's Ian.
I'm Lauren.
And this is Bars and Bells, more specifically, the weekend workout. We are here with our body weight, inviting you to join us to work on your strength and have fun with fitness so we can play with our own body weight and get strong all at the same time. I'll start today with a little foot warm up. Let's work on some skills that gets us to those ultimate body weight skills, such as the handstand.
But not limited to.
Not limited to. But here we go with the feet starting. We'll take a foot and go to the ball, those demi points. Then go towards the toe tip, and as allowed, flex over the toes. Then go back to the balls of feet and push the hip through, cramping the glutes, straightening the knee. Same thing on the other side. Balls of feet, toe point, over, back to the toes, and then push the hip through. Now, let's go for a little bit of a silly walk, or rather a strong walk that utilizes those foot shapes. I'll back up just a little bit, and Lauren's profile should help guide us along. Go to the ball of the foot towards the toe tip, and then reach a leg out front, nice and straight, landing toe, ball, and heel. Now pull that front foot backwards and push your back knee forwards. Then, at the back foot, roll over the foot, beware of that cramp monster, reach forward, land toe, ball, heel. Feel the front leg pull back as you push the back knee forward. Repeat again as we go over the toe. We'll reach out front, land toe, ball, heel. Feel pull, knee comes forward, over the foot. One last repetition here, out to the front. Hello, toe, ball, heel. Pull. Now connect the knee, and can you straighten the leg without bringing the knee any further forward? Now let's just reverse our steps. So we'll keep the knee in place and we'll bend it along the ground like Michael Jackson's moonwalk, and then straighten out that back leg, landing on the heel. Now push forward, bring the leg back and match those knees together. Then bend the knee in place and straighten the leg and push forward to go backwards, and a straight leg arrives together at the knees, and then a knee bends in place and we straighten the leg. And we can push through, keep the hips forward as the leg returns. And one final repetition here, push out the back, but push front to move backwards. One last task here today. Let's just move forwards again. Let's go ball, toe, reach it out front, stay on those balls of feet. Now push forward and back that we come up onto those demi points. And can we transition weight onto the front leg there and bring a straight leg all the way through? Stay on those demi points or those rises. Bring that other leg all the way through. Maybe a little test the balance in the middle there. And just one more of each with control. And last one. And then gently come down. And a little bit of a shakeout. We'll get right into those wrist warm-ups, Lauren. Take us there.
Let's get there by doing our knees over toes. So with our feet in parallel, we'll gently send our knees over toes. And just hang out here for a second and lightly tip your tailbone to the back wall, or that anterior tip of the hips. And then stay there, but lightly then scoop under the hips. Now go back to tailbone reaches behind you, and maybe you can sink a little lower. Then the heels will peel up and will slowly descend. Knees will land softly on the ground. You'll extend the hips, tuck the toes. Let's sit back on those for a second. And then we'll squeeze the cheeks extending forward and come down to our wrists, but landing softly through our fingers first, our first knuckles, and then our full palms. Once those hands are open on the floor, we'll look at our elbow pits and gently try to rotate those elbow pits or blood donations forward. Keep the shoulders pulled down out of the ears, and let's do that again, rotating the elbow pits backwards, keeping the hands planted and the shoulder blades stationary, and then lightly rotate them forwards. And one last time, backwards, and then forwards. And with them nice and gripped forward, fingers are heavy in the floor, we'll pull ourselves into wrist extension, which is shoulders towards over fingertips. And then we'll use our fingers and slowly push ourselves back. Let's do that one more time as we pull ourselves forward, trying to get those shoulders a little bit extended there, or those wrists. And then this time as we push ourselves back, we'll flick the floor away and give that a little shake out. Next, we'll turn those hands all the way around 180 degrees for fingers to land facing the kneecaps, and then those full palms. Let's shift our weight forward into those full hands. Lightly shrug your shoulders up, I don't know, and then pull them down. Now with those hands attached to the floor and the elbows nice and straight, let's sit back into those hands. Keep the palms on the floor, the fingers heavy. Rock forward again. Add a little bend to your elbows. Try to keep the palms there. And then when you can't do that any longer, peel the palms away, flicking the floor, and give that a light shake out. We'll come back up to standing by doing our squat. So let's extend those hips through. Cheek, cheek, toes tuck. With or without your hands, rock back to that low squat position. Let's hold a balance here. Right now, get as high on those demi points or get those heels high, high, high off the floor. Now try to keep them that high off the floor as you slowly press to tall and straighten the legs. And then with nice straight legs, descend to a soft landing. Whew, shake that out.
We'll continue to utilize that toe squat mechanism to get down to the floor, but we also will explore some wider stance squats. So let's just address that right away. With your feet in parallel, take a leg out front, and from the hip do a turnout and bring the leg underneath. Then repeat the same thing on the other sides. Front, turn out from the hip, together. And then in that position, open up a little bit wider. Now with the hands across the body, we'll leave the feet as is, cramping up those glutes as well. And now try to move through the rib cage. With the shoulders gently pulled together or retracted, very modestly again, you will do an up and over side bend and return to center. Maintain your breath throughout, perhaps an inhale to go down and an exhale to come tall. But repeating again, maintaining your composure, never let this type of a movement take away the breath. This will be our final one to the other side and resume nice and tall in the middle. Now perhaps just squeeze the shoulder blades together again, implement a very gentle chin tuck that we look to the floor, and we're trying to move the rib cage, rounding forward onto the hips as a crunch or a curl down. Keep looking at the ground, but lift up, projecting energy up through the clavicles, the sternum, the collarbones, the center of your body. Repeat that twice more. Easy does it on the flexion down. Generally keep looking down, but keep lifting the rib cage up. And for one more time, easy effort down. And trying to find some ab brace and some nice stretch through that rib cage T-spine as you finish up nice and tall. All right, let's get back to the floor. Then it's Lauren's turn again. So we'll go our knees over toes as our mobility squat. And then we had the heels lift up at some point. And then we left the heels high as we got low. Then the knees touch. Then the glutes squeeze. We can shake it out and back to Lauren.
Excellent. We'll first warm up that plank. Get our abs a little fired up here and get ready for some curls. So our hands come back down to the floor as they did in that warm-up, nice soft landing. We'll hover. I said plank, but I changed my mind as I put my hands down. Let's do our first bear hover. So that means our hands are underneath our shoulders, our knees are underneath our hips, and our toes are lightly tucked. For this first round, let's keep all 6 points of contact. Without moving, gently create tension by pulling your hands towards your knees. So start pulling your right hand to your right hip, and then your left hand to your left hip, and then pull both at the same time. And you're creating tension in your lats, armpits, as well as that core for 3, 2, and then gently relax but stay. Now let's create that tension again, but in an X pattern. So without moving, start ramping it up, but start thinking about pulling your right hand to your left hip and your left hand to your right hip. And now pull both at the same time. And again, breathe underneath that core tension, but create it for 3, 2, relax. Push the floor away. Give those hands a little shake. Let's do that one more time. But if you want to, we'll hover the knees off the floor. First time in parallel, pull. So knees will gently hover off the floor. Nothing moves. Pull your right hand to your right hip. Pull your left hand to your left hip. Create tension through your core for 4, 3, 2, soft landing. Take a second. Come back up again, this time cross body. Right hand to left hip, left hand to right hip. Create tension, breathe for 3, 2, knees down, floor pushes away. We'll come back up to tall via that squat. So with our toes tucked, we'll rock back. We'll keep those points high, high, high off the floor. And then we'll press out of that, hold for a second, and then slowly descend down with control. Shake that
And
up.
as always, the shakeout. Let's return to that squatting stance by opening up into that small first position or that little V stance, and then open up a little generous step out to the side. Stay tall, nice big power pose here. Push the feet out into the ground. Keep the glutes squeezing for 10 more seconds. Cramp up those side butt cheeks, the big butt cheeks in the back, and some core in the front. And then just stay coasting that effort away. Repeat, but alternately with that pull in. Keep the glutes max in the back, pushing through, and feel those nice adductor muscles pulling ourselves into center. And then also coast away that effort and maybe a little bit of a shake. For one repetition here, let's just pull ourselves down towards a nice little squat. And perhaps in this position, can we hike a hip or two? As we're doing this, we're moving the hips versus moving the rib cage. Let's keep the core active and stable. And for one or two more, hike a hip, pull a hip, hike a hip, find a level position, and push your hips all the way through. We want to build some tolerance to each of those unique positions, but find those hips to level as always. Repeat one more time. Pull ourselves down. We have the smallest tailbone cow, tip in the hip. And again, a little hike on the other side, or maybe even a little stir in the punch bowl there, or a little hip hula from back in the day. Find level, go everywhere, but know how to come up nice and tall, and then push one way, go the other, shake it out, and I think it's probably plank time now.
Kind of. Yes, we'll come back to the floor via that squat. Knees towards over toes. Let's get as low as you can, keeping the heels down this time. And what that means is really allowing space for those femurs by reaching the hips back. And then we'll peel the heels up. We'll land softly on the knees, extending the hips. Point the toes, and again, one more time, sit back there. We'll be into our plank position, you're right this time, but we'll also be going into that A-frame or that elephant shape. Excellent. So let's place the hands on the floor here, underneath the shoulders. We'll step our toes back. You can also do your plank from your knees as allowed, but we'll step our toes back up into our high plank position. Our hips are in line with our shoulders. Our butt cheeks are squeezed, and just as we did in that bear hold, let's pull our right hand to our right hip without moving, and our left hand to our left hip without moving, creating that tension for 3, 2. Now with the hips, start lifting them up. Let's keep a slight bend in those knees right now as you tip the tailbone to the ceiling. With a slight bend in your knees, gently start thinking about straightening your legs, but from your knees versus just pushing your heels to the floor. So right now I'm thinking about keeping my tailbone tipped, and I'm gently, like 1 millimeter at a time, trying to straighten my knees. My heels aren't even on the floor. Then I'll pull myself back through, holding that plank. This time in that X pattern of tension. So pull your right hand to your left hip and your left hand to your right hip. And you're so tight I couldn't move you for 3, 2, hips lift. Start with that light bend in the knees first. And then this time we'll prioritize that tailbone tip again to the ceiling. And we'll gently try pressing those heels to the floor, straightening the knees, but keeping that length through the hips. Breathe, pull yourself through for one more plank. Hold. Try to pull in parallel pattern. 3, 2, pull in X pattern tension. 3, 2, parallel. X. Oh, knees down. Take a second off those hands. Sit back with the pointed toes. Shake it out.
Nice.
Whoa.
Stay down here.
Stay down here.
We would like to always imagine ourselves as strong like steel, but also to be flexible like a rope. So let's work on some gentle rolling here as we go back and forth between some crawls and some other squats. For that, we'll have the hands set up a little bit wider than for a push-up or similar, and take a hand and turn it up at the hip. And then sniff an armpit and gently try to get the shoulder blade towards the floor. When you're at your lowest place, let's just take a nice breath in and a breath out, and then press ourselves back to those wide hand positions. Repeat on the other side. So it's a palm that's turned up at the hip, a sniff of the opposite shoulder, and then take a breath and press ourselves back. Stay there, or do the same thing and use your legs and get yourself in a nice little roll. Something like that. make sure that you have the space to do so. Thank you, Lauren, for making sure that we're not going to hit each other. And we can go forwards. We can go backwards and have fun creating that nice supple spine, but also be careful. It's probably easier doing it on a soft surface than that rigid floor that we are, but take your time and just like Lauren, pull yourself through into a pushing position that's nice and tall in a sit or even into that squat. Repeat once more. That's enough rolling for today.
Rolling.
Keep on rolling.
Excellent. We will stay down here. We explored planks or crawls that we face the ground. Let's explore crawls where we face upwards. So right now we'll have our toes pointing away from us, which is much easier than having our toes point towards us. And we'll put our hands, palms on the floor, fingertips facing backwards. Right now, we'll push down into the floor, we'll pull our shoulders out of our ears, and lightly just hover your hips off the floor. Now let's go back to that little scoop, so scooping the hips under, and then lightly making room for the femurs by tipping the tailbone to the back wall. We'll scoop the hips again, and if everything feels good, continue scooping those hips so we end up towards that tabletop or that crab soccer position that you loved when you were 6 years old. Now, as we're up here, we're squeezing our hips, extending them, and then slowly at the tailbone, we'll start reaching it towards the back wall, come down to that V position, and maybe just put your bottom down, take a second off, give those hands a shake. If that felt okay, we'll add one little progression this next time. So with those hands planted, feet planted, push down, lift hips, then start scooping hips up in the air and extending them. Either stay here or, without twisting or dipping, gently try to straighten one leg out and hold for 3, 2, leg comes down, other side. Really try not to let that hip fall as you do that for 3, 2, down. Starting at the hips, reach with that anterior tip towards the back wall, soft landing. Whew. We'll flip back over to the knees. Boom. Into that sit. We'll extend the hips, tuck the toes, rock ourselves back. Let's find those heels again as low as we can. That means also those knees are going to have to push over those toes. We might have a bit of a curled spine down here, but as we press, we get long and drive through Tolly Tall.
Excellent. We spent a lot of time in the studio, but we always learn new moves. I like that little bridge crab soccer move with that leg extension. Very challenging, but I like it. So keep those awesome exercises
Just wait
coming.
till the elephant meets the crab
Whoa, my goodness. Let's get into that squatting stance and this Japanese-inspired Shiko squat series to keep the hips supple. Make sure those hips are level. If we lift a leg, make sure that the femur is going up, that's that leg bone, and the hip is reaching towards the floor. So pull ourselves low, hands could be out to the side or in nice and tight, and as we stand up for the first time, just bring those legs together quick. Then pick up a foot, point through the knee, and land in the middle of those 2 feet. And then same thing, pull those legs together quick. Then pull up, point, land in the middle. This time, balance on a single leg, point the leg at the knee, land toe ball heel, and power away, cramping that glute, maybe with a balance aid on the side. Then point and land, and this time find the knee and hold, and then point and land, and power up, cramp that standing leg glute, and point. We'll do that one more time as we find the knee, and straighten, and land. And final one for this round, find the knee, straighten, and land. Sometimes it's quicker than others, but go slow if you can because it makes it harder. And shake, and wiggle, and back to Lauren.
Excellent. All right, it's not time for that crab to meet the elephant. I'll leave you hanging and you'll have to tune in next week. But right now, let's meet the lizard. Knees towards over toes, our usual descent today as we come down to the floor. Soft landing, extend hips. From here, let's just get into our first plank position again. So hands under shoulders, toes tucked, hips up. This time, let's take a single foot, flick the floor away, lift it up, and place it beside your hand. If you have to adjust your hands to get a little closer to your feet, no problem. Right here, let's think about reaching energy out that back heel, shooting it long, shooting energy out your front knee, and try to keep the hips up versus letting them sag towards the floor right now. Feel that energy, then pull it back into center to lift your foot off the floor and then place it back where you got it. Repeat other side, flick, lift, place. Reach front knee forward, reach back heel back, splitting yourself in half, then pull it into center, lift, and hold. Other side. Up again. This time we'll reach away from center, but now we're going to bend that back knee to land gently on the floor. We'll try to keep our spine nice and long as we flick the floor away with the back toe and try to bend the back knee, getting that heel as close to the bum as we can. Ooh, hamstring. Then toes will tuck, knee will lift, long, long, long. Pull to center to lift front leg and place it back. Other side, flick, place. Reach away from center first, then place the back knee down. Squeeze the back butt cheek, heel towards bum. 3, 2, toe will tuck, knee will lift, reach, lift that foot, place it back. Knees come down to the floor, flick the floor away. Extend the hips through, tuck the toes, rock back. Where am I going to go? No one knows. Stay on your points for balance. Press up, nice and slow, controlled. And now let's descend for 5 seconds. 5, 4, knees stay straight. 3, 2, and soft landing. Nice control.
Great. And shake. Let's come back to that Shiko-inspired squat again and repeat. There'll be a little bit of a breaking of the rule, or at least modifying those rules for that last repetition, so stay tuned. We're in a slight turned out stance. Step out just that little bit, then pull ourselves down, and right away, let's find, good job, Lauren, find that ankle balance. Then point, land low, power up. The goal here, as we talk through it, is to get in the same stance, but perhaps lower, and power up to that knee this time. And point, and land, and power up again to that knee, and point, and land. Let's repeat. Find the knee, and then straighten. And now break those level hips and upright body kinds of rules as we do a little bit of a side bend. And then we can land on that and repeat one more time. And as the leg goes one way, cantilever with the body the other. Keep those knees nice and straight, and then sit in the squat for the last time. Push those hips through. Push one way, go the other. Adjust the body, and just a couple more drills before our half-hour practice comes to an end.
I would like to take this back to our little bear that we started with today. And, as in good fashion, let's get down via the parallel squat. Knees over toes. As you're landing a little softer towards the end of our practice or a little heavier, extend the hips, toes tucked. Give yourself a little bit of room in front of you as this bear is going to move.
On the move.
With our hands underneath our shoulders and our toes lightly tucked, you could move with all 6 points of contact. Let's practice that for 2 steps. Opposite hand and foot, knee, step forward. Opposite hand, foot, knee. 2 more steps in the forward direction like this. If you had a bowl of water on your back, you're not spilling it because your core is nice and engaged and you're not weeble wobbling. Let's go back to where we came from, same pattern. Opposite hand and foot, opposite hand and foot. Bracing abs, no twisting, dipping. End up again with your hands underneath in the same line as well as the knees. You could continue like that, or let's hover our knees off the floor. Same fancy bowl of water on your back, opposite hand and foot step forward. As you go forward, you'll be transferring your weight, but you won't be tipping from side to side. So keep that tension. Let's try to go 2 more steps in the forward direction and then go back to where you came from. It's still contralateral here. Breathing. Use those fingers to flick the floor away. Last 2. 1. Knees down. Flick away. Extend those hips. With the tucked toes, we'll rock back. We'll find the heels again right away, and then we'll press through to tall. Shake that.
There we are. We've taken those hips and we've moved them nice and wide and out front. We haven't really explored the back, So as you finish today with our hips, let's improve our balance as well by doing a nice little hip circle. You could use, again, balance aid off to the side. With your feet facing forward, take a single leg and point it with a straight knee to the front. Then in place, we'll do that turn out action in the hip. Then in place, we'll do the turn in where the kneecap trends towards the middle. Repeat one more with that turn out. Now take that leg from the front to the side. And now repeat the similar action of our turn in on the hip. Give the standing leg a good cramp. Do our turn out on the hip, keeping the hip forward. And then again, a turn in, and then just pull that leg straight in to match the other leg. Then for that last repetition on this side, take a straight leg and reach it to the back, the same leg we just used out front. And from the back to the front, we'll turn like a key in a lock and move it to the side, and then move it to the front, and then push those hips forward just like those walks we started with, so our feet return underneath. Same efforts on the other side. Cramp that standing leg, and with a straight leg, point to the front. An external rotation, femur at the hip, kneecap moves away from center. A turn in, the kneecap moves towards that midline. Keep the standing hip forward. Repeat one more turn out. Then from there, move that leg to the side. We're turned out, so let's turn it in, keeping the knee straight, keeping those toes pointed, and glute squeezing. We'll do another turn out, keeping the hip forward, and then finish with a turn in. Get tall on that standing leg as you pull underneath the hips. The last repetition here, it's that same leg with the balance check as it reaches to the back. Then like a key in a lock, turn out from the back to the side, from the side on to the front, and then hip energy is going forward as that leg returns underneath. And add a shake, and add a wiggle, like that.
Just like
that.
Well, that felt great. That was a nice light whole body practice where we used our body weight, gained some strength as well as some core stability. We'll do this every Saturday, including next weekend, which is week 2 of semester 1. But it all starts again, semester 4. Oh my goodness, this year.
Semester 4 already.
Right, but it all starts again on Tuesday with our kettlebell class, live at 4 o'clock, or remember, anytime in that beautiful YouTube archive. So make sure you like and subscribe. Check out our Patreon page, and until next time, take care.
Stay strong.
And we'll train soon.
Have a good day.
Goodbye.
Bye.